Welcome back to MRC-TV. I'm Jessica Kramer. Today we're here with Ian Pryor, the Executive Director of Fight for Our Schools, to get an update on what's going on with that crazy school board in Loudoun County. Ian, I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me, as always.
So on Wednesday, a Loudoun County Circuit Court judge overturned the Loudoun County Public School's mask mandate, making it optional for students. This is not the case in Arlington County. LCPS Superintendent Scott Ziegler wrote to students, staff, and parents, quote, "The decision of whether to wear a mask or not is deeply personal for many families. We ask that you respect the decision of others. No one should be made uncomfortable about their choice." End quote. This is conveniently a very different attitude than what students were facing the last couple of weeks. Many of the ones that I talked to experienced bullying from their peers and teachers for not wearing masks.
Many people like Emma have spoken out to the teachers and said, okay, well, what about this? Like, what about our 5-day in-person, teaching our school class, our lessons? And they're like, oh, well, we've never heard about that. What are you even talking about? And there's many other students who are just very upset with this.
We're basically hearing horror stories about kids that are getting put into rooms. Some of them are being separated from their siblings. They're not being allowed to go to the bathroom. They're not being allowed to go to recess or go to lunch.
What do you make of this sudden change, and how do you see it playing out?
Yeah, it sure was a change. And it's interesting because just last week, Superintendent Ziegler was at the Board of Supervisors for a budget hearing where he said that, it was only 200 parents or so that are making all this noise. So it doesn't seem like he's certainly respecting their choice. And of course, they were suspending students for this reason. And then they sent out an email explaining to principals how they could press charges in front of a magistrate to get a trespassing charge for students who came to school that were suspended for not wearing masks. So as usual from Superintendent Ziegler at Loudoun County Public Schools, a lot of gaslighting, a lot of straw man arguments, and a lot of dishonesty.
Yeah, but it also looks like they're still making unvaccinated employees wear masks. Little preschoolers that are in programs like Head Start still have to wear them. Children on the bus still have to wear masks. How does all that square with the science?
Well, I think what you're going to start seeing is that kids aren't going to wear them on the bus. The bus drivers, do not want to enforce this. It's clear as you look across the country, red states, blue states, purple states are all rolling back their mask mandates. They now say they're following the science, they're following the data, but of course we know that they're actually following the political science and following the polling data. The bottom line is, unless you're wearing an N95 mask that is fully sealed, the cloth masks that kids wear are not effective. More than that, they just never enforced it. Kids would be walking down the hallways with masks around their mouth or their chin.
Yeah.
And it was very arbitrary for them to then kind of come in and say, and fight this so hard when they didn't even enforce it themselves.
Yeah. Well, another thing that I saw on Twitter is a lot of parents have been complaining about the state of the facilities in Loudoun County, which is the wealthiest county in the country, specifically Parkview High School. One person on Twitter I thought made a great point. He asked, why were these repairs not made when students were in person all last year?
Yeah, that's right. And look, I find it interesting that this kind of thing can happen in our Title I schools. You have Loudoun County Public Schools pay, well over $1 million for the Equity Collaborative to come in and talk about, systemic racism and redo merit admissions at the academies of Loudoun. Meanwhile, what they're actually doing or not doing at their important schools, I think shows the hypocrisy and the virtue signaling at a very high price to the taxpayers of Loudoun County.
Yeah. So I wanted your hot take on this. As a local leader of Parents Against School Boards, or as you call them, the AntiParent Cartel, what do you make of what's happening in San Francisco?
I couldn't be happier to see what happened in San Francisco. And, I'm extremely pleased to see that these are Democrats. These are Democrats that have had enough of the far left wing of their party taking them hostage. And, I think what you're looking at here is a single issue, and we're building the biggest block of single issue voters potentially in American political history. And it's not just Republicans, it's independents, it's Democrats. It's almost got a bit of a libertarian streak, to be honest, but more of a fighting libertarian streak, which you haven't generally seen amongst libertarians. So it's kind of interesting how this is developing, where you've got people on both sides of the political spectrum in strong agreement on our schools going in the wrong direction with the social justice and woke curriculum and watering down merit-based admissions to schools.
Yeah. And last question, what is next for Fight for Our Schools?
Yeah, well, so we're still in court with 2 school board members. All the judges in Loudoun County recused, so we're waiting for the appointment of a new judge. And of course, we have to deal not just with our school board, but we've got to deal with our Commonwealth Attorney, Buddha Bibarai, who is really running a protection racket for these school board members. And then you also have to deal with the head of the local NAACP here, who really started a lot of this stuff back in 2019. So there is an anti-parent cartel here. It goes beyond just the schools, and we're going to get to the bottom of it.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.